and there was no background noise, which made
Right.
sense, but yeah, when they go out into at the donut shop, that yeah, you need to have people in the background,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And
and
if you listen, you can even hear like tinking of glasses and spoons and flatware and
exactly,
like,
yeah.
a lot of other room noise that wouldn't even really think about.
Hello, welcome to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. My name is Jaclyn, and I'm excited to be here today on video where we can actually see our guest and me and just actually have a conversation where you get to actually see what's happening with us. And so today I actually have a special guest because this guest has been part of FAF Association from before it even was FAF Association. Before we became Faith and Family Filmmakers Association, we were Family Friendly Screenwriting Academy. And Caleb Fisher has been with us ever since then. And actually, I got to read the script that we're going to be talking about today. I got to read an earlier version of it way back then. So this is really exciting to be able to have Caleb on as a guest. So let me introduce him. Caleb enjoyed his school years being homeschooled and feels the experience allowed him to learn at his own pace and use alternative methods of learning while following his many interests. He's a creator, producer, and co-host of YouTube channel Good Morning Fellow Foodies with his brother Seth. He's a voice actor, playing parts in multiple episodes of Project Odeon, and is also an assistant with his brother's farm business, Mini Acre Farm. An avid reader, Caleb enjoys words and investigating alternate ways to make communication more effective and distinct. He's currently working on several novels and articles for future publication. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you here, actually, because there's even more than that. Like in your bio, you note some things, and I know when you write a bio, you have to choose what are you going to include in it. But I was hoping you would also include that you are a Pirate Hog, that
Oh,
our
yeah. I
merch,
should have included that. Yeah.
our merch is from Pirate Hog, and so we've got mugs, hats, and a T-shirt here. I'll
Yeah,
pull
I
that up.
started Pirate Hog Apparel back a couple of years back with my brother Seth, making shirts, hats, mugs.
Yeah,
Quite the
yeah. So
expensive library there.
yeah, and if you've been to Jeff and I, we've brought our merch to a few of the festivals like Purpose Fest and Content. So yeah, and any of the festivals we're at, we're going to be bringing some merch. So
Yeah, I
you can
love
buy
seeing
it
all the
online though.
pictures on social of you guys posting with guests and everything. I've always wanted to go to those conventions. I've never been able to make it, so I live vicariously through all those images.
You'll make it someday. I'm sure of
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah. And so if anybody does want to, learn more about the merch or purchase some or whatever, go ahead. We'll put the link in the comments or the bio of this podcast, and you can go and check it out. Okay, so writing, that's what we're going to talk to you as a filmmaker today. So back when I read this script, which I'll get you to tell me about in just a minute, it was a very early draft, and I will say I really enjoyed it. It reminded me of certain other sitcoms that I had seen, and because I love the quirkiness and workplace
Mm.
comedies are always fun. So tell us a little bit about the story and how you came up with this idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that because a big inspiration for me was old comedies like the Dick Van Dyke Show, of course, Frasier TV show. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that one, where that one takes place in a radio station, and so I was always intrigued by radio and the writers' room, like they show in the Dick Van Dyke Show. So I always wanted that to be a part of the story. So the story is Tally Light Broadcast, and it focuses around a radio station that is kind of decrepit. The owner doesn't really want to pay for anything, doesn't really want to update anything, and the people who are working there just kind of lost hope of anything changing or becoming better. And so the story it's very much of a redemption story where the characters are able to kind of see a glimpse of possible change and improvement in their workspace, because they love what they do, but they just don't know how to do it the best they can. So, yeah, I was inspired a lot by old shows like that.
WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
That was one I
Yep.
watched when I was younger.
Yeah, WKRP in Cincinnati. What was Good Morning World. That was one that I really loved.
News
Yeah.
radio. Yeah.
News radio. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were some really good ones back then. But yeah. It actually started off as a joke, the story, because my dad, he was in construction, and when he would, of course, be kind of held to what the weather was going to do. And so he would call us. He was never very tech savvy. So he would call us and be like, hey, what's the weather supposed to be like? So we'd get on the computer and we'd look it up and tell him what was going on. And after a while, it got annoying because, he would call almost every single day asking these questions. And the joke was always, all you have to do is put your hand outside and see if it's raining. And so we would joke with him constantly. And my Aunt Brenda is from West Virginia, and she can always tell what the weather's going to do. At my oldest brother's wedding, she was like, it's going to be raining in about 2 hours. And it was clear sky. There was no sign of it whatsoever. I looked at my mom and I was like, is she serious? She was like, don't question Brenda. She's going to be right. And sure enough, it started raining. And so all that to come back, the story originated with one of the main characters, Turble. And he's a meteorologist, doesn't have a lot of tech experience or anything like that, but he can tell what the weather's going to do. And so I actually started off writing this story based on that character. And I wrote it up, quick little 1-page story, and I showed it to my dad, and he just started chuckling. And so that kind of snowballed, and I just started adding characters to it, and kind of went in different directions. And you remember that script was very rough, but
they all are. I mean, first drafts are that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I showed that to you, and you gave really great feedback, and I went back to the drawing board and added more characters and started plotting it out more. And it's gone through quite the journey. It's on its, I always tell people it's 100th draft, but officially like 25th.
Right. I know. I think after it passes the third or fourth draft, I just stop counting. I don't remember, and how much are you going to edit before you call it a draft or just an edit? The point is you're working on it. No,
Yeah.
and I love how it has very distinct characters. Their voices were definitely clear. And I think that that's an important piece when, to know if you have a script that could work, is when you have these very unique characters that when you bring them together, the dynamic itself is interesting. And so then when you develop the story, this is all going to work. But I want to ask, did you originally intend to have it as a film?
Yeah. No, I originally had it intended as a TV show.
Okay.
I've always leaned more towards television than movies, just because I think stories have more potential to grow with a TV show. A lot of times I've watched a film and I'm like, oh, that would have made such a great series. They could have had like 10 seasons and it would have been perfect, So I've always wanted to create a TV series. And that's kind of where I plotted this story out to be. And the way that I'm doing it now, with it being more of a video podcast, it translates really well into that. And I think it has potential to eventually, maybe adapt into a TV series. A lot of growth.
So can you explain what you mean when you say video podcast? I mean, this is a video podcast, this episode at least. But I know, because you have shared it with me, it's a little bit more than that, unless I'm just maybe not aware that that's a thing. Can you explain to me what it is that you've created and how you came to that conclusion of moving that direction instead of doing the the television series?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always call it a video podcast for most people just because they kind of instantly associate what that is. But it started out with a project called Project Audion, and I've acted with them in about 5 episodes now. Actually, going to be filming a sixth one really soon. Well, with me in it, they've done way more than six, but six with me in it. And what he did is during COVID, back I think he started actually in 2020. Um, he did remakes of old radio programs, and he's the gentleman's Larry Groby, and he is very much into the audio drama scene. And for people out there not familiar with audio drama, it's the best description I've ever heard is it's a movie for the ears. And so it has great sound effects to kind of bring you into the world, and so you can visualize what's going on without actually seeing something.
Like Adventures in Odyssey. That's what
Yes,
I grew up
Adventures in
with.
Odyssey. Yep. I grew up with Adventures in Odyssey, and then later on with Lamplighter Theater. They do really great audio dramas. And so what he did is actually use audio drama methods with a lot of sound effects and all the actors, but he uses Zoom as a way to record the video. So you can still see the actors acting, and Larry does the sound effects live. So you can see him, doing the coconuts on soil to do, the hoof sounds and things like that. So what I did is I saw that, and with his help and kind of instructions on how to do some things, I took that format and I made my story video and audio. So I added sound effects later on. Those aren't done live in this episode, future. Uh, but so I added sound effects to create the world in an audio form, and then I recorded all the actors in video. And what I did is with the actors, I actually recorded the main cast live. And so which is really fun because live just brings a different dynamic. And so I recorded them live, and then guest cast voices I had recorded separately, and then I brought them in post. And with post editing, I used the method of bringing out the actors who aren't currently acting, not showing them on the screen at all, and only showing the audience, the cast that's currently acting. So it still has that visual element of, things disappearing and coming up. And, I also had actual musicians who had original work. I got permission from 4 different artists to have their music up. And so I had their music actually playing in the background, and I have, the visual of showing their art, their cover art. So I added as many visual elements as possible to make it appealing for the people who are watching as well as the people who are listening. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. And I like how you do see all of the people who are in the scene. And so if somebody enters the room, even if they don't have a line, they're entering the room. We see them.
Right.
And yeah, so it's kind of like that next stage of imagination, I guess, where I can see these are the people in the room, and I can see how like their facial expressions, how they respond to each other, because they are in character during
Right.
that part, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're just waiting for their line. And so what's interesting too, though, and one of the differences from, say, like a table read is like there's no narrator, but it works, I guess, because you do have this visual element showing who's in the scene. And even from I guess, like just the audio perspective, there are like the sound effects that help you to visualize what's going on. And, one scene
Right.
does lead into the next where, because I've seen parts of it. So when they say like, he's calling us to his office, we got to go. Well, the next scene is at the office, right? Or in his office. And so
Right.
it does make sense where one thing flows into the next, where you can imagine without the narration, you can imagine where you are. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
And that's what I love about audio drama is it's very much of a craft, just like filmmaking. It's just two distinct crafts, but they both have. I mean, there are people who specialize in just the sound effects and creating the sound effects and making it flow perfectly, and so it's very much of an art form. And so, um, when I was doing this, I spoke to several people who helped me figure out what sound effects were needed. Because when I wrote the script, I was thinking visual for TV. So, when somebody walks into a room, it's shown. You don't, footsteps are going to be taken for granted. The door opening and closing, taken for granted. So there were several times I went to someone, I was like, it doesn't sound right. I don't know what's missing. And they were like, oh, well, you need the sound of the door opening, but you need the squeak to hear it actually open, and then the doorknob, and then you need it to hear it close, and you need to hear scuffles of footsteps. And so there's so much layering and so many details that you need to think about even when writing the script that is so different from just a regular TV series. So yeah, it takes a lot of thinking through and just a lot of extra steps to make sure that the world sounds right and looks right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Like one of the things I did notice was when your characters went to the donut shop, there was the room tone of people in the background, like chatter and stuff like that. And so you did feel like you were in a different location because at the radio station, it was just the people that were in the scene and there was no background noise, which made
right.
sense, but yeah, when they go out into at the donut shop, that yeah, you need to have people in the background.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And if you listen, you can even hear like tinking of glasses and spoons and flatware and
exactly, yeah.
a lot of other room noise that wouldn't even really think about usually when writing a script or something.
Yeah, so actually, let's talk about that for a bit. When you're writing the script, like I know when I'm writing for a screen, I'm thinking, what are we looking at? Because I need to write that down. But so for an audio drama, are you thinking, what picture do I want to paint, and what do I need to do audibly to make that happen? Like, what are you thinking to
Yeah.
write this script differently?
Well, in the script, I still write directions for the cast of like, it's in such and such a place. For instance, the donut shop, that's going to be a really big location in pop. So, because in future, I'm going to have like a jukebox playing in the background and things like that going on. And so I give those details for the actors so they kind of can get into the mindset of, oh, okay, this is a totally different, like you even mentioned, it's a totally different space than like the radio station is. And then the way I did it is I wrote it basically like a TV script to where I was giving directions of, what it's going to sound like, look like, everything. And then I go through and I add the sound effect directions. And that's primarily for post-editing. In future, it will have live sound effects. So the actual person doing the sound effects live, Foley artist is what we're called in radio. And so what Foley would do is go through and they would see those sound effect mentions. And so they would know what's coming up next and what sounds to do and everything. But the actors also would get an idea of, okay, that's what's going to be going on in the background. So I need to be aware of, this sound is going to be happening. So I need to be in this kind of, mental space of my acting. And so I go through, I write everything down, and then I go through a second time, write down all the sound effects. And I had a great crew of individuals who were willing to look at my script, including yourself. And I had Grace Gidman and a gentleman, John Fornoff. He's worked in, well, his name is like revered in audio drama circles and in film. And he went through and he looked at it, and he gave suggestions. And even Larry Groby, he listened to it and he was like, "Oh, this sound effect, you probably need to add a little element here and there in the script." Then, of course, multiple edits. I had really great editors. John Fornoff, first and foremost, he really helped develop the full story and helped me rethink everything and create the current version that we see now. Then Grace Gidman, was recommended to me by John Pornoff, and she was amazing. She was able to look at the characters and help me make them more three-dimensional, more interesting, and layered them out a little bit more, which helped so much. And she helped with dialogue, and she'd go through and make suggestion after suggestion. And then Austin Peachy, he was incredible. He helped with fine-tuning the story, with dialogue. He gave suggestions on things to tweak with literally everything. And then he helped with casting. Most of the individuals who I used were from recommendations that he made, saying, hey, I think this person would be great here. I think this person would be really good. You should reach out to them. It was amazing just how I was blessed with so many great people working with this project. So I went through and I added all those sound effects, and then in post-production, I went through and I added those in post and, layered them so they happened at the right time, just like, the door. And, if somebody picked up a phone, I made sure that there was a click that somebody, had actually picked it up, and even a slamming down noise when they hung up angrily. So,
I remember seeing that or hearing that, I guess, but because it was interesting too. I'll just pause for a second when I was watching it, because your character picked up the phone with his hand, making a hand with his phone with his hand, and when he put it back down, like the sound effect matched his actions, and even though he didn't physically have a phone, I actually remember thinking, would a prop have been better? And I was like, yeah, this worked just the same. Because we know when we're watching them, they're not acting together in the scene. Like, they don't have props. Like, we're seeing them with the voice acting and their, facial expressions. But even when they're walking, obviously they're not walking, they're sitting down. So like that part of the illusion, we already understand what's going on. So I think it totally worked not having the phone as the prop, like just using his hand. Yeah.
And Craig Hart, I think, was the one who did the phone gesture the best. He played Oscar, and it's like when I directed it, my main concern when I directed was that I would miss something, because this was the first time I'd ever directed anything. So I was a little concerned that I was going to miss something. Thankfully, I had a co-director, Jack Kleindenz. He's a friend of mine who helped in early stages of the story and helped direct. But I was concerned I was going to miss something. And I was also concerned that I was going to just get lost and forget like what I was supposed to be doing. And there were several times with every actor and actress that I worked with, there was a moment where I was just kind of sitting there, just watching, So especially with Craig, because he did the telephone, which was surprising, but also you were one of the cast members who were done in post. And so I had to have the main cast do a second or even a third voice just to kind of cover in. So the pacing would be right when the actor who was doing it in post, so that way the pacing would be correct. And so Craig actually did your part, which of course was written down as Jaclyn call in. And so he knew it was supposed to be a female. And so when we went into the acting, he just did a female voice. I wasn't expecting it at all. So I just started busting out laughing. All the cast started laughing because no one was expecting it. And he just went with it. Like, he was a totally different character, and he just did it throughout the entire thing. And we had to take the most retakes of that part just because everyone kept losing it. But it's always fun, especially when you're doing it live, because everyone brings something different than you were expecting. Because when I work with Project Audion, Larry does 2 rehearsals and then the final take. And with this project, I was all the actors and actresses, they were giving their time. So I didn't want to, for lack of a better word, waste their time. So I did, 1 rehearsal and then the final take, which isn't much time for everyone to meld like you want them to. But thankfully, I was working with all pros, And we got through it super fast. And there were, like I said, there were only a couple retakes, mainly because Craig kept bringing out the voice. And, there was one or two times that we had an internet issue because we were recording via, with Maincast, we were recording with Riverside. And then a few of the other actors, we had to do Zoom because there were technical issues. But when you're able to see each other and do it live, you're able to just like feed off of each other's, I hate using the word energy, but because it has negative connotations, but you're able to feed off of each other's reactions and able to react to it in just a really special way. It's so much fun.
And because actors will say that acting is reacting, right? And so, you're going to respond to what the other character is saying, doing, and,
Right.
listening is a big part of acting. And it's hard to do that if you don't have a scene partner, right?
Yeah.
And so when they're all there and you can, I think energy is the right word though, because is it a high energy? Is it low energy? Is it a tense moment? Like you can feel the energy of that from each other and you can flow with it together, because there could be something that an actor says that triggers a shift in energy and then everybody can go with that. But you're not going to catch that if you're just each recording your lines individually and then putting it together. So.
Right. Yeah, that's there's usually with audio drama, especially when it's a smaller, lower budget, the actors are recorded separately. Mm-hmm. Or, they'll sometimes get on with like one actor and the cast director or whatever will read the line opposite them so it sounds good. But yeah, there's just something amazing having all the cast together at the same time and just being able to hear them react and listen to the script. And because when you're writing, I'm sure you experience this all the time. When you're writing, you constantly have somebody in the back of your head of like who you're modeling this character after, right?
Absolutely.
So
I have them cast in my mind.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So when you hear that in your brain, you're trying to find somebody who matches that sound or something. A lot of these cast members were a bit of a surprise because they weren't necessarily like the first person who I would have thought of, but they melded so perfectly. They worked together expertly. And I was a little concerned at the beginning because we had a couple technical issues and several of the people were kind of frustrated because, the internet wasn't working or whatever wasn't working as it should have. And so a couple people were frustrated, but thankfully we were just like, took a deep breath, and they were all pros. So they took a deep breath. They were able to switch off the negative, ideas or negative emotions that they had. They were able to just take a deep breath, let it go, and just move forward. And it was perfect.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I have one thought. A difference between doing a full-out audio drama and the podcast drama that we're talking about is that you do have to cast each character as a different actor, correct? Because I think for an audio drama, you can have an actor voice more than one character.
Right. Yeah. Even like it's cartoons, but like Mel Blanc, he used to do pretty much all the audio for like 12 characters in a cartoon. So yeah. That is a slight difference. I think in future, I'm going to still probably use one actor to do, multiple voices, just because a lot of actors are really good at it. But I think it's also fun for people to watch and listen to. And if you're watching, you're able to hear a totally different voice and watch them do something different. And it just adds a little extra fun to that element of you're just kind of watching like, how did he do that?
Yeah.
It kind of draws you in almost even more.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. You get to see them as an actor, like their skill
Right.
when they switch, and they bring something different. Because I think sometimes when you're watching someone, if you've never seen them act before, like you feel like whatever character they're playing is probably pretty much who they are. But then when you see them
Right.
switch to something entirely different, you're like, I don't know this person at all. And so
Yeah.
it's really cool
Yeah.
to be able to see that, that spectrum that they can bring.
Right. Yeah. Because there was another gentleman. His name was Hunter Atkins, and he played Turble, and he also did a second voice. And it was because Turble is supposed to be a little on the like country boy type sound, and he was played a different part. I can't remember which one he played, but he changed demeanor completely. I think he played like an old man, and it was perfect the way he changed it. And so when you're the best thing that I ever heard someone say was you're suspending disbelief. So you're trying to make people believe something that isn't actually happening or isn't real. And so when you do that, you're watching, you obviously know it's the same person, but when they switch the voices effortlessly, you're still suspended in that just you believe the story still because you're hearing it and you're like, ooh, I believe the story, but at the same time, that's really cool. You kind of lean in and you're like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in on, we're here for a story, and, these are the storytellers that are, engaging me. Right. And so we already have that, like that understanding, and like we're in on the joke kind of thing, right? Like we're
Yeah.
already in on it. And so then when it plays out kind of to that the further extent, then I think it just brings more entertainment to it, like what you're saying. I've done
Yeah.
that for our table reads, where, like, sometimes, for example, I love when John Goat is the narrator because he does such a great job. But sometimes there's a character that is maybe only in one or two scenes, and so not all actors want to show up just so that they can have two lines. But so I'll ask
Right.
John, like, hey, do you want to fill in for this role? And he's like, sure. And so he flips between narrator and the character. And it's so clear that there's this difference. And so it is a lot of fun to watch that. I agree.
Yeah. And it takes a special, I mean, obviously anyone can do it, but it takes a special kind of mentality for someone because you have to think, okay, this is my main character and this is how they sound and this is how they act. And then to be able to just switch it over, it really takes a different type of person to just carry it off perfectly. And yeah, it's fun to watch.
So what are your plans with the project?
Well, I'd like to do a full season of the project. We currently have a Kickstarter up to fund the first and second episode, because the first episode is going to be redone with live sound effects and a lot of additions to it. And then the second episode, which I'm currently in the process of writing. And yeah, we have several goals. The first one is to be able to do the first and second episode. And then the larger overarching goal is to be able to film a first season. So I'm really excited about that because the story has changed a lot from the very first one. Because, obviously the first idea that I had was just with Turble as a meteorologist. And now it's grown into, a full radio station, and I have ideas for, original music and all these extra things. And so I want the show I want it to be something where a family can get together, can listen to it, and just enjoy themselves. That's what I loved about Adventures in Odyssey, is that was one of the only radio programs. My family was very conservative. We listened to very few things on the radio. They wanted it to be have principles and lessons, and I want this to do the same thing. I want it to be something where someone will look back and be like, I remember when our family got together and listened to this or watched it. And I kind of have strong ideas about Christian entertainment. And for me, when I was writing, I didn't have this is the principle that I want to teach, or, this is the message that I want to get out. I very much had, this is the story that I want to create. These are the characters. And I want it to come out naturally. And actually, the creation of Uncle Ronnie's character is kind of, well, not an accident, but kind of was an accident of where I wanted something like I mentioned, Friends, where they have the coffee shop to hang out. And I wanted something like that. And so I was thinking of that. And I was, of course, inspired by, John Avery Whitaker's, ice cream shop. And so I always loved donuts and donut shops. And so I mentioned it to my brother, Seth, who helps me out with story ideas and things. And he was like, yeah, I like the idea. And, we should name it after, our uncle. He passed away several years ago from cancer. But he was a West Virginian, and he had a really good, strong Virginia accent. And I was kind of hesitant to add him in there because, with loved ones, you always have their voice kind of implanted on your heart. And that's very much with me for Ronnie. And so the actor who played him, Glenn Haskell, I spoke to Glenn, and I was like, because the first rehearsal, he did the part, and I had told him that he was my actual uncle that he was playing.
Right.
And we did it, and I emailed him. I said, your acting was perfect. I loved it. The sound was great. I said, but when my uncle would say, because I actually have a phrase in there that I'm going to be using as kind of his catchphrase, was young man, because that's something Uncle Ronnie always said when he greeted us. And so I said, when you said that, it kind of needs a little bit more of a pause, a little bit more kind of like a lilt to your voice. And he's like, oh, okay, do you have by any chance any recordings of Ronnie that I could use? And my aunt and uncle's daughter, Angie, she actually sent us a voicemail that Ronnie had sent her. And I listened to it, and my brother listened to it, and we both were crying. And I sent it in an email, and I said, Glenn, this is the only recording that we could find that had his voice really well. I said, and, however close you can get, I'd appreciate it. And he actually sent me 5 separate recordings of him doing different variations and like different pauses and everything. And like he hit it every single time. But there was one where it was just a little part of his voice that was like extra perfect. I told him, I think it was like recording 3 or something. I said, that's my uncle.
Wow.
And so he did that for the recording. And it was amazing how much further he went than he had to make the part perfect for me. It wasn't even perfect. It wasn't even, you're doing a bad job, you need to do it better for the project. It wasn't even that. It was just personal for me. Uh-huh. And he just went that extra mile. It's amazing. And everyone did that. I had very few critiques for anyone. It was mainly just like, hey, could you do this? Just adjust it a little bit. And every single person did it, and they did it perfectly. And without, I'm always worried when I give people criticism, or like
constructive critiquing,
constructive criticism,
or direction. I mean, you are the director.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always concerned that when I give them something like that, they're going to take it the wrong way and be like, oh, well, I'm doing it perfectly. None of them did that. Every single person I worked with, they were perfect. I mean, they were professional, 100%.
Was this your first time directing?
Yeah.
Okay.
First project directing. So it was the best first time directing you could possibly imagine. Because, when you're working with people who understand their craft and who don't take anything personally, I mean, directing's a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So this project was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what you currently have produced is like a proof of concept, because you said you intend to redo it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. And so I'm curious, like how long did it take you? Because I'm thinking there's probably some people listening who are thinking that sounds like an interesting idea, to make a proof of concept for a project that is done this way. It could be a really great pitching tool. I mean, obviously, when I saw it, I can see, okay, I know where he's going with this, right? That if you had a few more resources or something, you'd make it even better. So I'm curious, how much time did it take? And I know you put in a lot of sweat equity. If you're comfortable sharing how much those additional costs, if there were any, let us know a little bit of what it took to make it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the most sweat equity that I put in it was the writing, because I started actually with this idea. I looked back and it's about 13 years ago. So I always tell people 10 years plus. Um, so that, of course, multiple edits. I hired editors. I had Grace Goodman, and I also had a gentleman, and they were really great. They did not charge even close to what they should have for editing. But I think the average came out to around $20 an hour for them to look at it and edit the script and give suggestions.
Is that per finished hour or per working hour?
That's per working hour.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when doing that was close to the largest expense. So the second largest was the theme song, which I actually had done by Jason Vizza of Vizza Media. A little bit of plug for you, buddy. He's done a lot of content for mainly movies and TV shows. So he's pretty well known in the Christian filmmaking community. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever worked with you before, but
I don't know him yet, but I
okay.
would like to. So
Yeah.
you can make an introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to think. So it was the music, sound effects. I had to buy some sound effects because there weren't always some that were free to use online. I of course got custom web domains and things like that for the thing. But if you're talking just production, it probably was around $1,000 for the production, and then editing and everything, probably call it 2,500. And that was also doing very, I won't say minimal, but it was I got to the point with the story where I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And so I got to a point where it was like, I have to stop somewhere. I have to stop fixing the story or the script or something. I have to pick a spot and just say it's good. And I kind of got there faster than I think some people would have. And again, this is a proof of concept. So I think that with that has an understanding with everyone that it's great quality. They did the best job they could, but there's of course going to be improvements made later on. So, but yeah, I would say probably 2,500, and that's also, you don't always have to get a custom intro music. You can do a lot of things on your own. I did a lot of the sound effects and all that stuff on my own. But I mean, you can hire somebody and it'd be done faster and much better. But I would say if you wanted to do something like this really well, I would say set at least 3,000 aside. Which, I mean, that's way less than a TV show or pilot
yeah,
or something. I mean,
absolutely.
it's a drop in the bucket compared.
Yeah.
But also you're probably going to have to pay your cast. Thankfully, every cast member who worked with me was generous and they gave their time. And, if you do a project where you're going to make money at it, you're going to have to pay cast, and that's going to increase that amount of money that you're going to spend. But if you get the right people and you pitch the project and you ask around, you can sometimes get people to do it for less than their usual fee, and give them exposure and say, hey, if I make this into an actual thing, I'll use you for blank, or So, but yeah, it was very minimal budget, thankfully.
Yeah, and just for the audience's knowledge, the project itself is about an hour long, right?
Yeah.
So
End of
yeah,
it
it's
was-
not like it was a short, like a 15-minute. No, it's about an hour long.
Yeah. And I think the end was an hour and 8 minutes, and that was with my outro and, the credits and all that. So about an hour.
All right. So you've got a Kickstarter campaign. Tell us what you're looking for. We'll have the link in the show notes, but tell us a little bit of what you're looking for and what you plan to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first goal that I have is $1,000, and that will be funding the remake of the first episode and the full make of the second episode. And that's going to be for, hiring someone to do sound effects, scripts, because I'm currently in the, middle of writing the second script. And so I'm going to need to hire editors. There's also going to be with Kickstarter some physical rewards like shirts and other things.
Oh, and
And
you maybe just know who can
yes,
print those shirts.
Pirate Hog. Yes, we've partnered with Pirate Hog.
Yeah,
Uh,
there you go.
and so we have that as reward. We also have some really fun and exciting rewards I'm really excited about, and that is actually some things with web producer credit. So we're going to actually put credit of some Kickstarter. What are they called? Kickstarter participants. I can't remember what they're called. But we're going to actually put them up as web producer credits and put it up on our website as a special page. We also have some special edition shirts. We even have a framed script, signed script. And we also have something that's even more interesting, I think, is have your music featured in a future episode. So we're hoping to get some really creative artists. We're going to be promoting it a lot in homeschool and Christian venues. So we're hoping to get some really great musicians that may not be known right now, who can maybe be put up on there, and we can help promote them and they help promote us. And we even have featured voice talent that we want to get. So, because I know several Christian voice actors out there who are just getting started and who they'd like to, have something put on there and have their first project under their belt. So
Right, yeah,
we're
for sure.
we're really excited with some of these.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so where is it going to live once it's finished? What's your distribution
Yeah,
path?
we have a YouTube channel that's going to be dedicated to it. We're also going to be on all podcast platforms. We actually have the pilot episode on pretty much every platform that there is, well, major platform there is. And we're hoping to, once we have the first and second episode completed, actually looking for deals like Prime Video and things like that, actually putting it on really good video streaming services also. So it gets to a wider audience than just YouTube would. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. And definitely I want to keep up with what's going on with all of that. And so we'll have all of your links and everything in our show notes so people can check that out. I think especially for people who are thinking about doing proof of concepts or, even if they're thinking table read or something, this is something that's like a step above a table read. So
All
yeah,
right.
it's definitely, I think there's going to be some people who are interested in this and you might get some phone calls asking you for advice.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this kind of is a bit of a, like you said, it's kind of a way for people to get their ideas out without thinking, oh, I have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a pilot
Right.
episode or something, to where they're still able to get their ideas out there and still be creative. Because I never want to, I don't want to diminish it by saying that it's so much easier, because doing it as an audio drama type project, it is very much of an art to it. So when people are listening to me and saying that it's so much easier than this, or so much better than that, I still want you to keep in mind, everyone who's listening, that it's still an art form. So it's still something where you're going to have to get some advice on scripts and everything else to make it fully immersive the way that people are used to it. And I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. No, I appreciate that you're figuring this out because I have some ideas for some projects. And I'm like,
Perfect.
maybe we could
Yeah.
try that, because the thing is you could start out with what you have, and let's say if it does well and somebody's like, you know what, we actually should make this a series, like a film series, like a TV series or whatever.
Yeah.
You're still going to go for that. It's not like you're saying, well, I'm doing this instead of that and I'm never going to do the TV.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's just, this is where you're able to actually make something happen right now. And I think, that's a really important piece of the puzzle, with being
Yeah.
productive and creating things, is which direction can I actually go right now? Okay, let's go there.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so many times, for me, it happened a lot. When you see a barrier, like the money that you need to create a TV episode, you just kind of give up on it. You're like, it's down the road. I can't do it right now. I'll just put it aside for a while. And you either forget about it, or it just doesn't happen. And so with this, it gives, I always want to try and encourage people, look at the baby steps and say, okay, this is like the big goal. Like eventually I want to make this into a TV series, but that's like my 10-year goal. No. If I can do this and make it the best version that I possibly can, then that's going to be perfect. And that's my first step. And so, yeah, if people can kind of get out of the mindset of this has to be perfect, this has to be my big dream right now, and start looking baby steps, yeah, they'll be able to progress. And everyone has such a good story. I've heard like 12 stories since I've started this, listening to people, and they're all like, oh, it'll never happen. It's like, well, maybe it can if you think about it differently. And that's another thing that's really exciting about this is it's another way of giving people hope for their creative dreams. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your project, the highs, the lows, the really exciting part, and your ability to pivot and work with what you've got. I think that is something that God will honor, and I look forward to seeing how this whole thing turns out and where you go from here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
God bless.